right, guys, it's time for tonight's Tool Time Award. And tonight it's going to GOP Senator Rand Paul. And yeah, I know, earlier this week we commended him for blocking a vote on Iran sanctions because he wanted to put in an amendment that would state that there had to be congressional approval for any military action on Iran. That was good. But this next issue is an entirely different ballgame. So yesterday, 43 Senate Republicans and 4 Democrats protected $24 billion in tax breaks for oil companies. And earlier this week, during discussions about the tax breaks, Rand Paul decided to go to bat for big oil.
If an industry is successful and creates 9.2 million jobs, instead of punishing them, you should want to encourage them. I would think you would want to say to the oil companies, what obstacles are there to you making more money and hiring more people? Instead, they say, no, we must punish them.
That's right, Rand. This is all about punishing the companies that are doing well. How did you figure it out? I mean, I'm sure it has nothing to do with the fact that the 5 biggest oil companies, BP, Chevron, ConocoPhillips, ExxonMobil, and Royal Dutch Shell, made record profits of $137 billion, and many of those companies pay a lower tax rate than the average American. Then in 2009, Exxon actually paid 0 taxes, even though they made over $45 billion in profits. Very nice, huh? Not to mention, can we just point out some of the problems with Paul's logic here? The tax breaks that the oil industry enjoys are corporate welfare. So by asking them to actually pay their fair share of taxes instead of getting to use loopholes that amount to welfare, something that someone of Paul's ideology normally would be opposed to, well, that's not punishment. It's bringing things back to where they're supposed to be. But now, a big part of Paul's argument is that we shouldn't be penalizing the job creators.
The oil company employs 9.2 million people. We don't need to heap punishment on them. We need to give them encouragement to employ more people.
Yeah, fortunately for Paul, the oil companies don't exactly employ 9.2 million people. The entire industry, including minimum wage workers, only adds up to 2.2 million jobs. 9.2 is a huge expansion that includes ripple effects, which are not truly part of the industry. Whoops. And it's not just the facts that Paul is wrong about. He also fails to mention that between 2005 and 2010, BP, Chevron, Shell, and Exxon together let 11,200 employees go. So you'd think that it was a tough time for the oil industry. Turns out that it wasn't. During that same time period, they made $546 billion in profit. But remember, according to Rand Paul, they're just job creators and they should be encouraged, but that leaves me wondering just how much encouragement and profits would it take for the oil industry to actually be the job creators that Paul claims they are. Now, since they obviously aren't using the money that they make off of you at the pump to hire new employees or even retain existing ones, you might be asking yourself, what are they doing with all that money? Well, we often hear that the oil companies need these tax breaks so they can develop new oil deposits. So we have more oil supplies, leading to lower gas prices. Well, in recent years, only 10% of the big 5 oil producers' profits have gone towards exploration. And in 2011, U.S. dependence on foreign oil hit its lowest level in 16 years as U.S. oil production reached its highest level in 8 years. And guess what? Gas prices continue to rise, while at the same time, the companies raked in record profits. Kind of odd, right? I thought that according to this logic, if we had more oil, that led to lower gas prices and, well, guess they meant to say bigger profits, huh? So what do they actually use that profit for? Come on, guys. To buy our government, of course. Just last year, Big Oil spent $146 million lobbying Congress. On top of that, they shelled out $18 million in campaign contributions, 90% of which went to Republican candidates. So it really shouldn't come as a surprise that there are more than a few people in Congress that will go to bat for Big Oil. Any day, anytime. Got to repay those debts, or they might find themselves fundless during their next campaign. Now, despite all those facts, Paul decided to turn up the crazy just a notch, attacking Obama for giving federal loans to his contributors.
While the president talks about people not paying their fair share, he's actually giving more than their fair share to his friends. I don't think the government should be used as a loan agency to give money to your contributors.
All right, now don't get me wrong here. Everybody in the Capitol plays the you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours game. We call them out for it all the time. Both sides have their friends that they're cutting deals for, and it's a big problem. But those who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. Turns out that Paul's received over $106,000 in campaign contributions from oil companies. So, for being a complete shill for the oil industry, painting the oil industry as just job creators, and making mind-blowingly hypocritical statements about handouts for campaign contributors, for all that, Rand Paul is tonight's Tool Time winner.